Welcome to Did You Fear About This One? My name is Amy,
And I'm Donna.
and on this podcast, we talk about weird, spooky shit, science shit, history shit.
Anything that makes our weird hearts a little happy.
Yeah, we try not to talk about poop, but honestly, you know,
Shit slips.
or you slip in shit.
True.
Anyway, so for this one, because we are premiering in March and we like to kind of have overarching themes to our episodes, we are going to cover some specific dates and things in history from March or things that you celebrate. So when you think of March, what comes to mind?
Oh, that's an easy one. St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, definitely. So speaking of that, Donna, in her millennial Martha Stewart ways, made us Irish soda bread. But you said that this one's a little bit different.
This one is. So traditional Irish soda bread only has four ingredients, and that is typically flour, salt, baking soda, and buttermilk.
Mm,
So if you have stuff inside your Irish soda bread, it's considered an American version. This one has caraway seeds and dried cranberries.
nice.
So this is an American twist, which I got out of Amy Bruni's book, Foods to Die For. So Amy Bruni had taken recipes from notoriously haunted attractions and compiled recipes. So
Nice.
like there's a Lizzie Borden recipe for meatloaf, which I tried and well, it was very peculiar. This one, I don't remember on the top of my head where it's from, but obviously it's an Americanized version of the Irish soda bread.
Yeah, and we'll try to put that info in the description of this, so
Yeah.
you'll be able to see.
Great cookbook. Amy Bruni did a great job on it.
Yeah. The pictures in it are super cool.
Yes, and the history behind the attraction as well. So,
Yeah. It was one that I bought on impulse and then I was like, "Oh, I don't cook." And I thought about giving it to one of my friends, but then it didn't make sense and then I was like, "Donna, obviously Donna needs
yes.
this." And you've already started baking a bunch of things from it and
Yes.
yeah.
Another thing that's really interesting about the Irish soda bread is depending on what region you're in Ireland you're from, is also shapes too. So different shapes have different regions from where they're from.
Interesting.
So I don't want to get in specifics because I don't have it all memorized, but different shapes is different regions. So some have more like blops, whereas more like squared and rectangles. So it reflects on the region that you're from. Another cool tidbit about the Irish soda bread, just to go with the whole St. Patty's Day thing, is traditional Irish soda bread has a cross carved on top to keep the devil out.
Apparently we're getting possessed today.
I am so sorry. I did not put a cross on top. I'm not from Ireland. I'm not of Irish descent. Was not aware of that. So sorry.
We done fucked up. It is what it is.
We're all doomed, as Crazy Ralph once said.
I don't know who Crazy Ralph is.
If you guys know who Crazy Ralph is, please subscribe and tell us on the bottom in the comments section.
And I'll see that later, I guess. As I wait with bated breath. So one of the things that I was thinking of with St. Patrick's Day
Mhm.
is how annoyed I used to be growing up and having people pinch me or try to pinch me because of the whole wearing green thing. So I wanted to look into that. And this is like a minute, 5 minutes of research right before this because I did research on other stuff. But so if it's not right, blame Real Simple, where I got this from. Um, so according to an article on Real Simple, um, it's common on St. Patrick's Day to wear green because it's supposed to make you invisible to leprechauns. And so they apparently can't see you and therefore can't pinch you.
False.
Really?
Okay, so I actually don't know where the whole pinching thing came from, but leprechauns. So I did a little backstory on leprechauns because I too am geeky like that. So leprechauns, one of their first attires was not green, but red.
Ooh.
So riddle me this one, Batman. When they switched over from the red attire to the green attire, how did they see their clothes if they can't see green?
It would just look gray. Ask anybody that's colorblind what color they're wearing. It's not like their clothes stop existing because they can't see the color.
I retract my statement now. Well, I mean, red and green are the two most colorblind colors. People really can't see red and green.
Yeah,
Which, okay, so riddle me this one. Why are why are stoplights red and green?
because fuck y'all.
I actually know some colorblind people, and you are absolutely right. Different shades of gray. And obviously, we have the same layout for all traffic lights, so that makes sense at the same time. But knowing that red and green are the most common colors for colorblind people,
Yeah,
they couldn't have come up with, like, blue means stop.
no.
Anyway.
It all works out great until somebody installs your traffic light upside down, which I have seen before.
Mm.
My dad, I remember, encountered it once on his work commute and actually drove me down there one night so we could get pictures of the upside down traffic light before it got fixed.
Hmm.
Because, again, what do colorblind people do? If the bottom one is lit up, you're gonna go, which is the opposite of what you need to do at that moment. So, yeah. So, anyway, supposedly that's why, which I think is much more wholesome and interesting. But
Upgrade.
yeah, that probably would have annoyed me less as a small angry child to know that I was supposed to be invisible to leprechauns, and that's why you're supposed to wear visible green. So, like, green socks, green hair isn't green clothing,
Mm.
not visible green clothing, so it doesn't technically count.
Got it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. And then random quote from Conan O'Brien. They say there are only two kinds of people on St. Patrick's Day, the Irish and the people who have to drive them home. I'll let you decide on that one. He's redheaded enough, I don't know, but sure.
If anyone knows about Irish, it's Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, I guess
I
so.
mean, how much more Canadian and Irish can you get?
That's fair. What are other big holidays or events that you know of in March?
International Women's Day, isn't it?
Yes, that is on the 8th.
Hmm. Other than that, I really don't know any other holidays in March. I mean, sometimes Easter,
Yeah.
but
What
not
about
very frequent.
3.14?
Yes. Pi Day.
Yeah.
Hmm. Is that really a holiday though?
For math nerds.
Which I am not.
No, I'm not either, but
I mean, there are a lot of people that do 3.14, things like pi related. What was it? Oso, the little brew company we have out here,
mhm.
they do like a little pie flight. So they have like banana cream pie ale,
Wow.
which is absolutely delightful, by the way. Then you got pie companies are doing specials on their pies too. So, anything pie related.
Yeah.
Dutch Bros, they've got their banana cream pie coffee drink, which is also delightful.
Nice. I remember seeing a picture online somewhere of somebody who had made a pie with the pie symbol
Hmm.
in the center, and then they did the numbers all the way around until it came back.
I'm good. I'll pass on that. It's too detailed.
It's adorable. It looked so fucking cool.
Absolutely.
So another one, another big holiday, would be the Ides of March.
Oh, I'm not familiar with this one. Tell me more.
So depends on how much you paid attention in history class and or Shakespeare.
You lost me at Shakespeare.
So,
He and I did not get along.
really?
Yeah, no.
Oh.
No. He was my nemesis.
Mm. Here I am, the person who took a poetry, half Shakespeare class in high school because I was that person. But there's a famous line in his Julius Caesar play, Beware the Ides of March, which was a warning for Caesar because in real history, he was assassinated by up to 60 of his, like, colleagues who were just really fucking tired of him, and so they just kind of all got together and stabbed the shit out of him. And the reason that I say it's kind of a big holiday is specifically because of Tumblr. which is where I've spent the most of the last, I don't know, 15, 13 years of my life living on Tumblr. And it's one of Tumblr's favorite holidays where we just send around memes and pictures and make jokes about Caesar getting shanked.
Well, I mean, my sister and I do that with Valentine's Day. We make St. Valentine's Day Massacre references.
Yeah,
So, okay, I get it.
yeah, yeah. So that was why it had to be included on this list. But some actual interesting things and
So
not
wait, wait,
just
wait. What
memes.
day is the Ides of March Day?
The 15th.
15th. Okay.
So
I can also think of another holiday, but it's not friendly for families, so we're gonna pass on that one. Look up March 14th. It starts with steak and then a sexual act.
I mean, we talk about eating bodies and making brain pudding.
If you have young children in the room, please have them step aside. But March 14th is steak and blowjob day. It is the male equivalent to Valentine's Day. So ladies, cook your gentleman a nice little steak and get on your hands and knees and do what you do best.
Use your hands.
Not on a blowjob. Do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody has their own techniques.
Some are wrong and some are right.
So
If it gets the job done,
yeah. The reason it's on the 15th, apparently, the Romans did not number each day of a month. They did basically three fixed points in the month. So the nuns, which is the 5th or 7th, 8 days before the Ides. And then the Ides, which is the 13th for most months, but then for like 4 random months in the year, it's the 15th, including March. And then the Calends, which is the first of the following month. Why? Rome, why? Is this why you had to murder Julius Caesar?
yes, he's been stabbed 60 plus times and now I want to stab him.
This is why Tumblr celebrates it every year. And I love it.
Gosh, and here I am concerned about the revolving holidays, the ones that don't have set dates, like Thanksgiving.
It's the last Thursday of November.
It means I have to still think about the day.
You just have to look at a calendar.
Yeah, but I can't be like, oh, it's February 14th or October 31st. I now have to consult the calendar to find out the last Thursday's date.
Meh. Thanksgiving's overrated. I mean, I
And then
love
there,
the food, but fuck.
but then there's Easter too. Like that too, you have to consult the calendar like it changes every year.
I just ask Google
It hurts
if
my
I
it hurts my
care.
brain. I like the fixed holidays.
Yeah,
So to have three dates, Rome, what the fuck, man?
that's fair. They did a lot of things. That's why they fell. Also, fuck Caesar. So anyway, I wrote down a bunch of other holidays and then like historical events and tidbits to go with March because I like this kind of shit. So on March 1st, and I didn't write down the year when I was copying this, so hold please. Of 1966. So March 1st, 1966.
Okay.
There was a space probe, a Soviet space probe, the Venera 3. It crashed on the planet Venus and became the first spacecraft to land on another planet. I think land is a generous term there,
Yeah.
but that's awesome.
As Buzz Lightyear and Woody once said in Toy Story, you're not flying, you're just falling with style.
You're still first.
That doesn't count. You didn't land. You impacted a
First.
cheaters.
um,
I said what I said.
that's fair.
But good for you for cheating.
Yeah,
Take your participation trophy and go home.
still we're first.
By default and technicalities.
Okay. So on March 2nd, that is International Rescue Cat Day. I want to rescue kitties.
Adopt, don't shop, please.
Yes, I want
Clean those
kitties.
shelters out.
Yes. Um, Another historical event. In 1933, the film King Kong premiered at Radio City Music Hall and RKO Roxy in NYC.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
So
bet that was a huge deal.
it must have been. I think my father-in-law said that King Kong was like the first movie that he'd seen in theaters.
Hmm.
I could be completely fucking wrong on that, so who knows? But he is a bit older than my mother-in-law. Anyway, um, another event on that is that author Peter Straub was born in 1943 on March 2nd. Um, Peter Straub, how familiar are you with him?
Can't say I'm very familiar.
Okay,
I'm sure it's a big name because he's got his birthday that's in textbooks.
yeah,
So,
not textbooks, but in our discussion. So he is an 8-time Bram Stoker Award winner. Are you
mm,
familiar with the Bram Stoker
that
Award?
I am.
Yes. So it's for horror writers, horror creators, basically thanking people for like continuing horror and being excellent at it. So he's an 8-time award winner of that. And he also, let's see here.
That bread is way too good.
It really is. It was so good. So his most famous book, according to the sources I found, is called Ghost Story from 1979. And I don't remember if I've ever read any Peter Straub. I definitely went through a phase when I was much younger of reading every horror book I could get my hands on from the used bookstore and then like trading it in for more. So I have no idea, but none of these looked super familiar, but I could also tell you like episodes and movies or episodes of spooky shows and movies that were inspired by these. So I could see what's happening here. So anyway, Ghost Story. The description is: what was the worst thing you've ever done? In the sleepy town of Millburn, New York, 4 old men gather to tell each other stories. Some true, some made up, all of them frightening. A simple pastime to divert themselves from their quiet lives. But one story is coming back to haunt them and their small town. A tale of something they did long ago, a wicked mistake, a horrifying accident, and they are about to learn that no one can bury the past forever.
Oh, I totally know this movie. Scream!
Yeah. Scream. There's
I'm
an
I'm totally joshing. It's not Scream.
well, no, it's still inspired by it. That's what I'm saying. Scream would be inspired by
I
this
was just
kind of
being
thing.
facetious about that. It's totally I know what you did last summer.
That's right. So one of us is a horror movie buff, and one of us is a TV and book
Yeah.
buff.
I'm about the movies. Not as much as my boyfriend. My boyfriend, total cinephile, like still collects physical media. We need a bigger place because of his movie collection and his sneaker collection. Love you,
That's
honey.
that's fair.
Make sure you subscribe so you can like help fund us so we can buy a bigger place for his shoes and movies.
That's fair. Yeah. I was gonna say there's an episode of Supernatural in the first season, that's basically this. Lady in the water?
Hmm,
Lady in the lake? Something in the lake.
interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, so another one of his famous novels is Coco from 1988, which ended up as a trilogy. And the first book is described as Coco. Only 4 men knew what it meant. Now they must stop it. They were Vietnam vets, a doctor, a lawyer, a working stiff, and a writer. Very different from each other, they are nonetheless linked by a shared history and a devastating secret. Now they've been reunited and are about to embark on a quest that will take them from Washington, D.C., to the graveyards and flesh pots of the Far East to the human jungle of NYC, searching for someone from the past who has risen from the darkness to kill and kill and kill.
Huh.
Yeah.
So, on a lighter note, that kind of sounds like Without a Paddle, but that's not a horror movie.
Oh,
But that's a lighter note too.
yeah. It sounds like, and I don't remember the episode title or what season, but one of the early seasons of X-Files had a very similar case, but these were soldiers that were like dosed with a drug that made it so they couldn't sleep.
Yes, I remember that episode. I don't remember exactly which episode, but I very much remember that episode.
Yes, that
It was
was,
one of the best episodes, actually.
yeah, that was one of my favorites, to be honest. Um, and this one I did not get a description of just because I didn't, but I could look it up real quick. He did write a duology, so a two-book series with Stephen King.
Oh,
Yes. And supposedly, or not supposedly, but the first book is in development with Netflix, but there's no release date details. So while we are sitting here real quick, if you want to kill some time while I pull up that description, I will read that to us.
sure. Do 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 do. Just kidding. Um, yeah, so Amy here is more of the bookworm. I'm definitely more of the music person. It's been that way for quite some time. But when it comes to Stephen King and all those ghoul stuffs, love those books, but I just don't have time to sit still and read a book.
Yeah, probably not one that's 784 pages, huh?
I'm still trying to get through Dracula for like the third time.
Yeah.
I just bought a new copy because my other one was like very, very worn. So I want to read it again, but I also want to read like the real Dracula Undead book, which they just came out with.
Interesting.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in another episode.
I want to read, I think it's Carmilla, but the book that inspired Dracula.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I might own it. I don't remember. It's definitely on one of my many, many book wish lists. Okay, so the book that Peter Straub wrote with Stephen King, at least the first in the duology, is described as Jack Sawyer, 12 years old, is about to begin a most fantastic journey, an exalting, terrifying quest for the mystical talisman, the only thing that can save Jack's dying mother. Aww. But to reach his goal, Jack must make his way not only across the breadth of the United States, but also through the wondrous and menacing parallel world of the Territories. In the Territories, Jack finds another realm where the air is so sweet and clear a man can smell a radish being pulled from the ground a mile away, and a life can be snuffed out instantly in the continuing struggle between good and evil. Here, Jack discovers twinners, reflections of people he knows on Earth, most notably Queen Laura, the twinner of Jack's own imperiled mother. As Jack flips between worlds, his way westward toward the redemptive talisman, a sequence of heart-stopping encounters challenges him at every step. An unforgettable epic of adventure and resounding triumph. The Talisman is one of the most influential and highly praised works of fantasy ever written.
That actually sounds really amazing.
Yeah.
In my mind, however, it feels like it's Without a Paddle meets Stranger Things.
Yeah. I get definite like Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland,
Mm-hmm.
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Agreed.
But with Peter Straub and Stephen King. In one of the interviews I was reading with Peter Straub, who actually died in 2022, unfortunately. But he was saying of like working with Stephen King that they both have such distinctive styles that they challenge themselves to kind of like blend their styles and adapt the other person's styles so they if people were like trying to be like, "Ooh, I could see what you wrote," they'd be like, "Nah, that wasn't me. That was him writing like me." And he said that it led to some very interesting
Hmm.
things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to keep a lookout for that one. I might actually sit down and read a book.
Shock, horror.
I know.
So I have a few different quotes from him on writing because in addition to being a bookworm, I am also a writer and very much enjoy writing things and things to do with it. So, um, in an interview with University School of Milwaukee, yes, I am judging the name of your university school because what the fuck? That's just redundant. Anyway, interview with University School of Milwaukee, he said, Quote, the reason I chose to write scary books was because at the time there were three horror novels that had been enormously successful: The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, and The Other. But there were only three of them, so it looked to me as though there was plenty of room for newcomers. And if I wrote in the horror genre, I knew I could do anything. I could experiment, I could make a dozen mistakes, and nobody would notice because nobody paid attention to them, really. Nobody expected a lot from them, so I approached them with some degree of real seriousness and the kind of willingness to see where it might lead, and I could possibly have a future as a writer.
Huh. I love that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense, for being in the 70s and just it's not a saturated environment yet.
Yeah.
And so, as somebody who is more into the movies and stuff, do you feel like horror movies get taken more seriously now, or have they ever been taken seriously?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
They're the most underrated genre of all time. You don't really have a lot of Oscars and awards going to horror movies. Sure, they get nominated every once in a while, but frequency, not so much. It's usually like dramas and rom-coms and action flicks, but the horror genre, we totally get not, we don't get the acknowledgement for sure.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for a long time. You've got a lot of really great directors and producers in the horror genre that, you know, they just don't get the recognition. Now, unless you're like part of the horror community, you can pinpoint different works of art from different directors
Mm-hmm.
because everyone's got their own tale, just like an author does.
Yep.
But we definitely need to have a bigger award rating system, if you will. But at the same token, I feel like a lot of awards programs nowadays, and I'm going to say what I'm going to say, is just, like a butt kissing ceremony. Like
Yeah.
some of the recipients are just recipients because they're popular. Like the Grammys, I haven't watched the Grammys in forever.
Honestly, I feel like part of that has always been true. It's
Agreed.
just that we're older and have seen it more
Yeah.
times, and it's just like, oh yeah, that is
I
a
mean,
thing. I
Leonardo.
love looking at the fashion though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The fashion, 100%.
Yeah,
But I mean, look at Leonardo DiCaprio. How many brilliant roles have he had? And he finally won an Oscar.
he
Like
did.
in The Revenant, what was it, 2013, 14, somewhere in there? Maybe it's later. I don't
Did
God.
he win that?
Yeah, he finally won an Oscar
Yeah, it was such
for
a
The
meme
Revenant.
for a long time.
But I mean, he was absolutely brilliant in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, the
true.
whole cast, I mean, everything from Johnny Depp, like, oh my God, brilliant movie.
Hmm.
I also thought he did a fantastic, super fantastic job playing Frank Abagnale Jr. in Catch Me If You Can.
That was a very good one.
So, they've got these brilliant movies that are just not getting the love that they deserve, and that's 100% true in the horror genre.
Hmm.
You know, um, I understand a lot of people don't watch horror because of the gore
Yeah.
and the whole paranormal aspect or the religious beliefs, whatever that's holding them back, so to speak. But it's kind of a good thing that they're not getting the acknowledgement because you don't want to be getting acknowledged just because you're popular.
Yeah. And it's definitely not because um like horror doesn't have, beautifully filmed movies. Like The Witch is beautifully filmed, beautifully composed, like visually and everything
Hmm.
like that. Um, and it's not because there's bad acting. Like Sydney Sweeney in Immaculate. Have you seen that one yet?
Have not.
Okay, spoiler and trigger warning for we'll go with our rating of like 3, 4.
Okay.
Okay. So if you are sensitive to topics of child death, religious trauma, go ahead and skip a little bit, and I'm gonna spoil it for you.
Okay.
But Sydney Sweeney, so she produced this movie, and she's been popular with like Euphoria and like kind of the teen stuff.
Hmm.
But she helped produce this movie where she is a true believer who joins a convent to become a nun in somewhere in Europe. I don't know, Italy. Insert Catholic knowledge here that I don't have. And what she doesn't know is that the head priest is leading this like invasive campaign to artificially inseminate the nuns with um what he thinks is the second coming of Christ. So he supposedly found a nail from the crucifixion and like removed Jesus's DNA from it and is like extrapolated it into somehow making clones. It's a stretch the truth. Regardless, Sydney
Sure.
Sweeney in the final stretch of that movie, is giving labor while escaping and murdering people. Like, water breaks and she has to get the fuck out of this convent and kill her way out. So the entire time, she is having to pause and like grit her way through like labor pains while trying to fight for her life, and then has to get rid of what turns out to be the Antichrist. Um,
In the words of Stephen King, that's batshit.
yes, it's amazing. It's an amazing movie, and she did so good. And like, from what I understand, she's not a mother, so she's never been through it. But it, I mean, I haven't either, so take this with a grain of salt. But it looked like she did her research and really tried to put everything into it. And like if things were, all on equal ground and all on like actual talent, that should have been a nomination for
Hmm.
her because like who the fuck does that?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. I really do wish that the horror genre in general would just get more accolades and more respect for
Hmm.
sure.
Well, I mean, there's artists too, like the composers that deserve, more acknowledgement than they receive. You know, I truly don't know a lot of composers aside from Danny Elfman.
Hmm.
I've only met like one other, and that was Guy Moon. He did the music for uh, Cow and Chicken. So I
Nice.
actually met I actually met Guy Moon back in high school. We went to U of A for a band conference thingy, and we got to sit through like a little TED Talk before TED Talk became a thing. So we got to meet Guy Moon. So,
Nice.
but there's a lot of composers out there. Like this is their thing. Like they want to be involved in the horror scene by producing music, such as Danny Elfman.
Hmm.
So truly don't know how much acknowledgement Danny Elfman's received, but
Uh,
everybody knows him.
well, and obviously he's prolific at this point,
Yeah.
but I think that's where awards like the Bram Stoker Awards and just, you get the more like genre specific awards because it's like, okay, we're
Yeah.
clearly ignored by whatever the rest of the industry, but fuck that. We recognize it, so
Well, the horror industry is a very big, big face on the Raspberries,
yeah.
which is the notoriously bad awards.
You know what? Sometimes that makes it better.
That is true.
Yeah.
If it's being hyped up to be a really horrible movie, you're probably a little more inclined to see it to see if it actually is as bad as they say it is. Case in point, a lot of people did not like The Mummy with Tom Cruise.
Hmm.
I just watched it for the first time. I was like, it's really not that bad.
I
Could it
still
be better?
I
Sure.
still really liked House of Wax from the early 2000s.
Yes. I actually just watched that.
Yeah, with Paris Hilton and yeah.
Total guilty pleasure of mine now. I have the original because I absolutely love my Vincent Price. So watching the two of them, like brilliant delivery for the 2009 version of it.
Hmm.
I thought it was very clever, very hip, very well done. Nice little twist to it. Not so true to the original. Same premise. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah.
But same thing, people they don't care for it.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those like punchline things because Paris Hilton's involved, but like if you guys don't know, one Paris Hilton, like that's a character she plays all the time. The
Mhm.
ditzy blonde. She is a huge fucking nerd. Did you know that she collects like World War II like radios and all of that shit? And then there was something I was listening to, some podcast I was listening to recently. No, it was a Jimmy Kimmel interview where she was explaining what NFTs were to him with like full terminology, and you could just see like the error 404 screen on his face where he's just like, uh huh. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel. It was one of those late night people, but
Paris Hilton actually is a very brilliant woman.
Yeah.
I admire her because you're spot on.
Yeah.
It's just a facade. That's
Yep.
not truly who she is. Like she's a very brilliant, businesswoman, collector,
Mm-hmm.
mom.
Yep.
Like she's brilliant.
Yeah. And activists now with
Hmm.
um those scared straight bullshit schools,
Yes.
which we grew up seeing that shit on TV and everything. But yeah, all that to say, horror creators in general deserve more respect.
Agreed.
Which is part of why we wanted to do this
Yeah.
because we're huge nerds with that.
Hmm.
And so to continue with that, one of the other quotes that I got from Peter Straub had to do with his writing process. And being a writing nerd, this really spoke to me. I don't know if it'll speak to any of you, but fuck it, it's my podcast. I can say what I want. Here it is. So he says, and this is again from that same interview with University School of Milwaukee, whose name I still do think is fucking redundant. Anyway, there is something magical about writing, but it also involves dedicated hard work and intuition. It may sound silly, but for me, writing is as though something is being transmitted to me from another realm, and it is my job to let it come through undamaged. And he kind of continues later on. One of the real essential steps in fiction writing, but also one of the most enjoyable, is when you're editing away and doing it well, and you can see the work get better. You can see sparks from passage to passage if you take away the fuzz from those passages. You do things many readers wouldn't notice at all, except for you. Make an entire act of accessing a novel or walking into it. You make it easier for the reader.
I love that.
Yeah. And that's something that I've found with writing and stuff too, is like that editing process is sometimes the most fun, where like you've gotten farther into a work and like something sparks later and you can go back, or as you're reading back through it, you're like, oh, I can totally fuck with them here and add this
Yes.
in.
Yes.
So much fun. I love
Agreed.
it so much. And that whole like feeling as though the story is being transmitted from somewhere else. There's actually like um not philosophical. It might be like philosophy. It's also in like quantum physics. So in those like crossover realms, there is a theory that authors are tapping into alternate realities
Huh.
and getting story ideas from there. Then again, in that same interview, he was talking about again working with Stephen King and how Stephen King described his feeling of writing as stumbling across something that's partially buried in the mud or in the sand and pulling out a shovel and slowly excavating it and seeing more and more of it as you go. So we all have our different ways of describing the creative process.
I like that.
Yeah.
So tell me more. What other holidays do we got coming up?
So, on March 2nd in 1998, that is when there was data sent from the Galileo spacecraft that indicated that Jupiter's moon Europa had a liquid water ocean under a thick layer of crust of ice.
Huh.
Yeah. So that was well within our like being aware time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, that was the end of March 2nd.
We didn't
Um,
crash land on an island or a planet. We actually discovered that.
yes.
Sorry.
Such a dork. Just dunking on the Soviets for no reason.
Because yeah,
You're such a dork. So on March 4th in 1922, can you guess what happened?
March 4th, 1922. Nothing happened. I'm sure something did because you would be asking me that. I have
Mhm.
no idea.
Nosferatu, the very first vampire movie, premiered at the Berlin Zoological Garden.
Fun fact, the widow of Bram Stoker fought long and hard to get this removed because they did not get permission
Yep.
to use any similarities to Dracula.
Yep. It was an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And she was pissed. She fought long and hard to get everything destroyed, the negatives, everything. And she was victorious in July of 1925.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
So she did win. We did not get the first true authorized Dracula until Dracula about a decade later. I think it was like 1931, 35, somewhere in there in the early 30s is when we first had the approved Dracula movie.
Interesting.
Mm.
One of the only tidbits that I know about Nosferatu is with that original one, the actor who played
Hmm.
Nosferatu stayed in character the whole time. He was
Yes.
doing that method acting thing and freaked out the rest of his
Yes.
coworkers.
I heard a lot of rumors about that as well.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, he's pretty damn creepy as it is.
Oh yeah.
Even outside of character, he was a very creepy man.
Well, you would have to be able to fit that like makeup and,
Yeah.
embrace your creepy.
Yeah. And he did very, very well.
Yeah. So March 5th, 2002, the Osbournes reality TV show premiered on MTV. Did you watch any of that?
I did.
I watched like all of it.
I enjoyed it very much.
I did too. It was definitely like one of the only reality TV shows I ever really got into, mostly because like in that time, like I was more into Buffy.
Hmm.
And if it wasn't Buffy or the Osbournes, there were sports on TV at home. And then when I got out of my parents' house and like moved into my own place, I think I had cable for like a month. And then my husband and I were both like, we don't actually watch this. So we
Yeah.
stopped paying for it and got like Netflix. So we would just mail the discs back and just said fuck it from there.
It was kind of sad seeing the downfall of Ozzy.
Yeah.
And then finding out recently he's got Parkinson's as well.
Oh shit, I didn't know
Yeah,
that
yeah,
part. Yeah, and seeing the or hearing about later like the addiction struggles
yeah.
and health issues and other background issues going on with him and his kids and
Agreed.
all that. But
It
it was
was,
a sweet show that
yeah.
kind of showed, you know, just more
Was that like one of the first reality shows?
based on like a family. I think one of the first.
That's what I was thinking too, because I mean, obviously, Keeping Up with the Kardashians came way after.
Mm-hmm.
That's a show that can go away. I said what I said.
I don't know if Simple Life might have come before that, but that was also Paris and Nicole playing characters,
Hmm.
and doing almost like sketch comedy reality TV show.
Yeah, I would concur with that because
Um,
both of them are brilliant women, as we
yeah,
discussed.
yeah. But yeah, I think that might have been one of the first. That was such a weird time.
Yeah.
The transition, like in the before times, before reality TV, like the idea of like watching some random family do their life was just like, why? Why would we do that?
Yeah.
I guess Real World from the early 90s.
Oh,
But I think that Osborne's was like when it really
took
like
off.
especially like I said following a family like 'cause you had Survivor, you had Fear Factor and all
True.
those
Yeah.
things kind of happening at the same time, but that seemed to be the first time that they, did that thing
When
that
did
Kardashians are
Big
doing.
Brother start?
Fuck, I don't know. Around that same time.
Huh.
I think I did watch some of that
And
too.
nowadays we're all just posting stuff on social media. So I mean now everybody's got their own reality show, it seems.
Yeah. So we can avoid phone calls.
I like that.
Yeah. So, on the 7th, actually, of 1876, speaking of phone calls, Alexander Graham Bell got his patent approved for the telephone.
Curse you.
That's
You
the
created spam calls. Actually, I got the most honest spam call yesterday.
hmm
I was blown away by the guy's honesty. So I was trying to reduce how many spam calls I was starting to get because I all of a sudden received a lot of them. My phone tells me, scam possible or whatever, possible scam. But I'm trying to get people to, take me off their list, which I understand you're not supposed to because they'll just keep calling. But anyway, so I answered the phone yesterday and the guy goes, "You're probably going to hate me. This is a cold call. Do you want to buy something or you want to just hang up?" And so I chuckled and I said, "I'm not interested. Please take me off your call." He's like, "Okay, you have a good day." How real was that? I adore you, sir. Thank you for being honest.
As someone, when I sold cars, one of the dealerships that I worked at expected you to call 50 people a day, cold calls. And we would get these stacks of phone numbers and customer information that were just printed out from their backlog of service drive customers, people who had come in for a test drive and given their information, people who had bought cars before, whatever. And you would just go through your spiel and usually get a voicemail. And I remember several years later when I was working for a different dealership and that was a huge part of my job. Every time I would type in that number and hit dial, I was just like, voicemail, voicemail. Oh, disconnected. Even better. But yeah, when I worked for the larger dealership in Vegas, it was if you didn't connect with a person, that didn't count as one of your 50 phone calls. But I totally said that it did and would just walk away from the phone.
True story. I too had a call center job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been through all sorts of different careers in my day. Um, One of my first jobs after high school. So I was in college. It worked for a company called Alpine Lending. The business is defunct for obvious reasons nowadays, but we sat in a call center setting, truly call center, with true phones, no headsets, true phones, pick up the phone and dial.
Oh yeah, and if you've never had to deal with those multi-line office phones that most call centers have, I could never hear shit on those. Could
Yeah.
you ever hear shit on those?
Oh yeah, loud and clear, because we had like little cubicles,
Yeah,
but it wasn't our cubicle. Like we had to share it with like the day shift and the evening shift, so it wasn't our cubicle. But
yeah.
we'd pick up a stack of postcards. We'd go to our cubicle, and we would just start calling. And I was cold calling people in Aurora, Colorado. Now I work the evening shift, so I'm calling people during that dinner time. Not the happiest time to talk to people.
Neither of us wanted to do those jobs. It's what you do to survive, okay?
Well, I was misled to what my job title was. They had told me my job title was appointment setter.
Yeah.
So here I am thinking I'm gonna be like a secretary or something. No, I'm calling to set appointments for the lead generators for refinancing. Now, I'm 18, 19 years old, have absolutely no idea about mortgages. I'm calling people in Aurora, Colorado during their dinner time, seeing if they want to come refinance their mortgage for a lower rate. So we were supposed to ask him, like, so, Mrs. So and so, what's your interest rate? Oh, you're over 6%? Come on in, we can get you something lower than that. Now, this is back when interest rates were like dirt cheap. So, 6%, that's a good percentage nowadays ish. But if it was higher than 6%, we were supposed to really push them to come sit with our financiers to refinance their mortgage. And I had absolutely no idea about mortgages. I was 18, 19 years old. So the most god awful job. I did have one guy threaten me. That was fantastic.
Oh yeah, I've been threatened before. That's sort of a normal thing when you do call center shit. I've had people tell me their life story
Yep.
um for a while. So one of the dealerships I worked for, I had my own little office, and then I moved to a cubicle because it was up front by the windows, and I was tired of staring at a wall between my office and the cubicles, and I wanted to be around the people. Um, it was a mistake. I should have stayed in the office, but but that phone specifically in that cubicle had regular, like, not crank calls, but someone had definitely gotten that number and would make reservations with restaurants on the East Coast that would call to confirm the reservations. And I had to constantly tell them that no, this is a car dealership and it's in Arizona. And they're like, so you're not coming? And I'm like, nah.
That is amazing. I love that. I love that kind of crank call.
Yeah, I wanted to give that person props, even though it was kind of like annoying because it was a thing that I had to deal with, but it was also like, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. I interrupt your shit, you interrupt mine.
Well done, sir. Or
Yeah.
ma'am, whoever did that.
Yeah.
Good job.
So another thing that happened on March 7th, so in 1996, the I can make words happen. The Hubble telescope got pictures of Pluto's surface for the first time.
Your mom said I was big enough.
See, I was gonna go with R.I.P. Pluto, but
I still believe that Pluto is still a planet. My astrophysicist friend says it's not a planet because it's not large enough. So that is why I said your mom said I was large enough.
isn't it considered like a dwarf planet or some shit? Dwarf
I think
something.
I think I think they actually took out planet entirely. I think it's like a dwarf star or something like that now. I'll have to get back to you on that. But by the way, I did not come up with that. I saw it on a t-shirt. I thought it was very clever.
Yeah.
I am not equipped like that downstairs. So,
So on a much more sombering and serious note, so on March 7th in 1981, the very first homicide at Disneyland happened. An 18-year-old Mel Yorba was stabbed to death during a fight with James O'Driscoll after allegedly pinching Driscoll or O'Driscoll's girlfriend's bottom.
oh wow.
Yeah.
I never knew something like that could happen at Disney.
I didn't either. And it's something we originally, when we were talking about doing this podcast, not wanting to do true crime, but finding that case, I kind of want to cover that case just to do it justice. Because I'm curious.
Yeah, I've never even heard about that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And
And I love those true crime podcasts and stuff.
and especially with the whole like and if you are not from California and haven't spent time at Disneyland or whatever, you may not have heard this, but the um rumor, tall tale that no one dies at Disney, no one is declared dead at Disney, even if they don't. Supposedly, they'll make them wait until they're off Disney properly before confirming people dead so that there's no death at Disney. But yeah, clearly not in that case. But yes, I would like to dive into Mel Yorba's death there just to kind of do it more justice than a quick blurb.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. On a more positive, different turn, as we discussed, March 8th, International Women's Day. On March 9th in 1984, The Children of the Corn was released.
Nice.
Also, March 9th is Barbie Day.
I was trying to think of something witty to say.
I just have Aqua stuck in my head now.
I was gonna say I'm a Barbie girl stuck in the cornfield.
Yeah.
You
Ooh,
can shuck my corn.
Barbie doll, Children of the Corn reenactment. Someone do that. Tag us in it.
Yes, please. We know you know how to do AI.
No. Fucking stop motion that shit. Don't use AI for creating shit. That's stealing jobs from creative people. Fuck AI for that.
Don't use AI. I want to see stop motion too.
Yeah. Or animate it or fucking stick figure it. I don't care. Just somebody make like 30
Or
seconds of it.
get in character. Come on, guys, dress up.
Yeah.
Amy, we got a project.
No, I'm putting it on them. You have a project.
The judge has spoken. Can somebody please help us out with that? So here's your synopsis. Watch Children of the Corn if you're not familiar with it. And then take Barbie and reenact that, please. Thank you. I
So,
said please and thanks.
yeah. So random factoid that I know about Children of the Corn because I also haven't seen that one.
Color me shocked.
But I have heard from people who lived around the filming area that the reason that there were stories that that set was haunted was because the local kids would go out in the cornfields specifically to fuck with the cast and crew and make noises and do shit.
Have you ever been in a cornfield?
Yes.
So from upstate New York, where I'm from, oh yeah, we used to mess with people on the regular. And then I love corn mazes to even to this day. Here I am, 40 years old. I still love corn mazes.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, like you just can't see anything. It's so dense.
Yeah.
So definitely adds a layer of creepiness to a cornfield.
Yeah.
But then you have like those albino platinum children. Yeah, it's pretty damn creepy.
Yeah. I could see that. On the 10th of March in 1902, Thomas Edison lost his appeal with the US Supreme Court, and it was determined that he did not invent the movie camera. It was another patent that he stole from someone else.
Womp womp.
Speaking of, and I didn't dive into who actually did on this one, but I think I want to do a whole episode on Edison and his claims to have invented things and the claims that he didn't. Because I've definitely heard that he was a thieving bastard, but I wasn't there, so.
Oh, there's so many people that are plagiarists.
Oh, yeah,
Like crazy amount.
yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
when I go on the down the rabbit hole and I'm doing research on random topics, I'm checking multiple websites. And I mean multiple websites and I see the exact same verbiage. Come on, man, do better.
Honest,
Create your own stuff.
so having been one of those people where, have done like blogging jobs and things in the past, likely, not all the time, but likely not even um stolen from other blogs. Likely the writers sold their shit to different blogs or they run different blogs and just sold their articles. Copy and pasted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking like different authors entirely
Hmm.
when it's just, like the same verbiage and stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe I just don't know something. It's possible.
No, no, it's definitely bullshit. It makes it so that it's basically you have to do a lot more work to research shit properly online now
Hmm.
because Google has ruined the internet. And Timothy Ferris. I mean, I enjoyed the 4 Hour Work Week when that came out, and I enjoy like his podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. So he kind of was one of those first like start a blog on a random topic like golf and just put out a ton of different articles on different things about it. Make it kind of, 500 words or whatever, throw a ton of ads on it, get revenue, get clicks, SEO the shit out of it, move on. And that's when you started to see a lot of the internet change to that from, traditional blogs. And now that we have, mostly video formats and audio formats and short form formats like TikTok and stuff, you don't see those traditional blogs. Even something like Morbid Anatomy, which is a source that I'm going to reference in another episode, it was a blog that ran forever, like started in 2007, went over a lot of like advertising history and those like anatomy journals and things like that, like you
Hmm.
were talking about
Hmm.
before, and documenting all of that. But like now, uh, she mostly does like online classes and has resources and writes books, and the blog part is dead because no one reads them anymore.
Yeah.
And that really kind of changed the way that the internet and search results are. Not entirely his fault, but definitely was one of the big names along with Gary Vaynerchuk. Um, Gary Vaynerchuk? One of those two. He was another one of those like get the blogs filled with little articles of information and SEO
Hmm.
the shit out of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Again
I
with
learned something today.
again with random things that I've done for paying bills before. Um, let's see. So in 1975, a movie that I have seen many times premiered. Can you guess what it is?
1975. Oh my gosh. So many movies came out. I'm drawing a blank.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That was one of my guesses, but like I said, a lot of movies came out in 75. Great movie.
Love that
Only
movie.
musical I really get into.
Not even Sweeney Todd?
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, that's fair. Rocky Horror is
Way more catchier.
campy and fantastic and definitely a must see.
Tim Curry. Come on.
Well, yeah, obviously.
And Meatloaf. I love Meatloaf. God rest his soul.
Yeah. And then in 1997, what do you think happened on that same day?
March what? 19
10th.
March 10th of 1997.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was in 7th grade. I don't remember.
Okay, it was the release of something.
No idea.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Did you watch Buffy?
Nope.
Oh
Not
my
really. Saw a couple episodes. I don't know, like back in the day, like I just even then I really wasn't much of a TV person. Still to this day, I'm not much of a TV person either. I love my movies and I've gotten better about watching them, but I was definitely more into Angel though.
God. Yeah.
David Boreanaz, man, that man.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, fucking seventh grade Amy, like, totally liked him, but then Spike happened, and no.
No, David Boreanaz could totally take Spike. I mean, Angel could take Spike.
I'm much more of a Spuffy fan. Anyway,
David
um,
Boreanaz is just a very, very beautiful man. Even my boyfriend knows that I have a thing for David Boreanaz. If you're watching, David,
I say that like I'm surprised. I'm not even remotely surprised, so fine.
yeah, I say things that I don't really mean. So,
That's not true. She means it. Your exception list is. So fun thing. On March 10th in 1891, um, an undertaker invented something called the Stroager switch. What do you think that is?
okay, so an Undertaker, Stowage or Switch. I'm gonna go on a hunch.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Does it have anything to do with Dead Ringer?
Elaborate.
So there used to be a thing because people thought that the dead could rise,
Mm.
that there would be a bell that would hang over the graveyard, the grave that was freshly dug or whatever.
With a string going into the coffin so that they could pull it in case they were
Correct.
buried alive and woke up.
Correct.
Because we didn't know how to tell when people were fully dead yet.
Exactly. So is a switch something like that?
No, I didn't actually assume that at first. When I first saw this, I assumed it was something to do with like cremation switch.
Oh.
Um, but I think the timing on that is wrong. We're both wildly wrong. So Almond Strowger, an undertaker in Topeka, Kansas, patented the Strowger switch, a device which led to the automation of telephone circuit switching. He created it because he was convinced that the manual phone operator people were interfering with his calls. Tell me that you don't like people and are an introvert without telling me that you're an introvert who doesn't like people by being an undertaker and then trying to find ways to keep more people out of your fucking phone calls.
That is not what I expected.
Not at all, but it's amazing.
You brilliant soul.
Yeah. I
Good
I
for you.
I gotta love more people who are also not a people person. Like I love people, but it's also selective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She definitely likes more cats than she does humans.
Well, fair, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like more dogs than humans too, so that's fair.
Yeah. And like I can talk comfortably with people and obviously like I've said I sold cars, I can put on a show and pretend to be human. Pretend to be a loud bubbly human who can talk to strangers easily.
That's
But
my
my
job.
preferred mode is on the couch with my blankets and pillows and a book or a TV show or a podcast or an audiobook. Just not out talking to people. Fun fact. So we've been talking about this podcast and promoting it, and Donna was telling me, what was it, this week? Last week? She was mentioning that we needed to get business cards. And it was very adorable. She was like, "Oh, we need to get business cards so that we can and or even like those little QR code cards so when we're talking to people and like promoting the show, they can scan it and like find our stuff. And I was like, there is a negative 5,000% chance that I'm going to be talking to strangers about this
Yes.
right away. Not that I'm not 100,000,000% on board with anybody, like, if this goes anywhere, like approaching us. Like, if you see me in public, 90% chance I have my AirPods in, so like get my attention first. I'm not ignoring you, I'm just antisocialing, but I will absolutely social, not a problem.
Hmm.
But like, I'm not that. I was like, give me business cards, I will put them up places. Give me stickers, I will put them up places.
Yes.
Walking up to random strangers, or like the coffee drive-through this morning. Yeah, I'm like, no, there's no way I'm not doing that.
That's a me thing. And see, this is how we're different. We got books, we got movies, and music.
We got the tech side over here, and we got the promotion side.
Hmm.
You've already done so much, and we haven't published any of it yet. It's great. We balance.
Totally.
Okay.
Even
So,
our partners are polar opposites too.
oh yeah, yeah.
They're geeky in their own rights,
Oh
but
yeah,
they're both the polar opposites.
yeah. Like,
It's amazing.
yeah, yours, because we had a little celebratory pizza dinner last Friday, and your partner was here and was just geeking out over all my decorations
Mhm.
and nerding out and super happy. And like, you were kind of a little bit more like introverted and tired at that point.
Yeah.
And my husband was definitely in the elaborate little bits and contribute little bits, but in the like, I've been up since 3 a.m. working
Hmm.
mode and very quiet and observing. And then, like, as soon as you left, he's like, oh man, he's like, so let's test this out and then we'll go ahead and do this. And like, last night, we spent like maybe 2 hours going through all of the audio equipment, like finding apps, watching videos, troubleshooting it.
Oh
Like,
my
he
God.
taught me all of it. It was so cute.
Oh
But
my God.
yeah, total opposites there. It's great.
Meanwhile, my boyfriend is, an art designer. That's his hobby, I should say. He's got a degree in art design, and he's the one that actually did our little Grimmy logos. So he's very creative as well. That's why we love our peoples. Anyway,
It's
back
good.
to holidays.
Yes. So this one, probably not up your alley, but special to me because I love this. So on March 11th in 1964,
311 day.
yes, that is true. Gene Roddenberry brought a 16-page pitch for the original Star Trek series to the studio.
That is actually awesome.
It
I
is.
do love Star Trek, actually.
Yes, I love Star Trek, especially the original series.
Yes.
So random writer nerdery here. So in the pilot episode, have you ever seen the pilot episode?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, so with Christopher Pike.
Yes.
So one of the feedback things that he got from the studio on it was that it didn't have enough like interest basically. So what he did was he split that Christopher Pike character into three characters. You have Captain Kirk, you
Hmm.
have Spock, and then you have Bones, who was my favorite. And so you got these three aspects of this one character's personality, and it created that, standard trio that you see now, where you get, your Star Wars trios, you get fucking Supernatural in the later seasons trios, like every like dynamic or show where you end up having like three people playing off each other can thank Star Trek and the people who decided that they needed to do something
I
like
didn't know
that.
that.
Yeah,
That is so cool.
it is so cool. I love it. It's just the random little nerdy things, but that's why each of those characters are so like
Hmm.
very specific in their ways. Like, Spock is very, stereotypically like masking his emotions and
Matter
very
of factly.
scientific and matter of fact. And Kirk is very passionate and very empathetic and very not the womanizer that people assume him to be, very much a feminist, very much an equal rights person. And
Very diplomatic.
then you have Bones, who is very loud and very dramatic and very like, what the fuck do you scene kind of
Yes.
thing. One of my favorite things with Bones was in the movie where they went to San Francisco with the whales, and from the 70s. Uh, anyway, they went back in time to the 70s on Earth in San Francisco. I can't remember why. It had something to do with whales. I think the whales were sending out a distress call because we were about to blow up the planet. Star Trek. But there's this scene where they're going through a hospital and Bones is walking through this hospital and there's people on gurneys in the hallway. It was backed up and he's like ranting and raving about how everything is barbaric and they're still suturing people and there's stitches and like why are we torturing people like this? And like he, uses one of his tools to like cure somebody's something and then the person's in the background, he cured me, and everybody's like, get down, Granny, or whatever. And I love it. I love it so much. um, so yeah, Star Trek the original series. My love. Um, One of the other things that happened on March 15th, aside from celebrate Caesar being stabbed day, is in 2002, the first Resident Evil movie was released.
Remember that?
Yes, I loved that series
Yes.
so much. Mila Kunis. No, Mila
Jovovich.
Jovovich. God damn. Mila Kunis was awesome in Jupiter Ascending, but Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil, my favorite.
Yes, Mila is my girl crush.
Yeah. Mila also stars in The Fifth Element, which is one of my two favorite movies. My other one is Desperado.
Did you ever see uh, A Face in the Crowd or Faces in the Crowd?
No.
Oh, give that a go.
Okay.
Recommended. Highly.
Awesome. Let's see. In 1925, we have got the co-inventor of the combined oral contraceptive pill was born. It's a Mexican chemist named Luis E. Miramontes. So celebrating that.
True story. It was actually Mexico that was one of the creators of the birth conceptive pills. They were starting to use a lot of, I believe it was sweet potatoes.
Hmm.
Apparently, if you eat a ton of sweet potatoes or yams or something like that, it has like anti-pregnancy aspects.
Interesting.
But it was, yeah, it was definitely 100% down in Mexico that created it,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny because of the whole Catholic heritage, that's very popular with the Hispanic cultures, you know, just keep having babies, keep having babies, keep having babies. But yet they're the ones that created the birth conceptive,
Yeah.
contraceptive.
Again, as we mentioned in another episode, we're both European mutts, and most of the problems on Earth are either the fault of the English or were started in Europe in some kind of fuckery way, usually Rome, the Romans, and
Yep.
the shit inspired by that. So, yeah.
But I thought that was very fascinating when I learned that in my college class.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe it was sweet potatoes or yams. It's one of those two.
Isn't that the same thing?
No.
Really?
Yeah, there's differences.
They're both gross.
I'll fix you my sweet potatoes.
Kinky.
That's twice.
So, on March 17th in 2000, the movie Final Destination premiered.
Didn't see that coming.
Such a dork. In 1995, the sequel to the movie Candyman premiered. What do you know about Candyman?
Like the lore behind Candyman or just the movie?
I don't anything.
I know that he had a lot of bees. That was one series that I really didn't get into.
Interesting.
Just for some reason, it just wasn't really much of an interest. No offense, but
Yeah.
never really got into it, so I can't say I know much about it.
Um, no surprise I haven't seen it, but that's just because I don't watch a lot of actual horror movies, the classics. I definitely have my favorites, but like I was telling Donna, it was sort of the Saw series that got me into diving more into it, so I'm more of that
Yeah.
kind of person. But I do know, and this makes me want to add it to my watch list. So it originated from a short story by Clive Barker,
Mhm.
called The Forbidden.
Okay.
And it's a legend of the Candyman, a ghost of an artist and a son of a slave who was murdered in the late 19th century. And I also, and this is something where I'm like, I don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly certain that this was, if not the first, one of the first major horror movies to star a black actor.
Facts.
Yeah. And that it was later redone by Jordan Peele. So
Hmm.
definitely want to dive more into that
Yes.
because that is huge. And again, that's one of the things that I'm loving recently, seeing more diversity in
Yes.
horror for
Yes.
sure.
Absolutely.
I love getting to see different perspectives and shit
Absolutely.
because it just expands the art. So
We
fuck
can we can have a
yes.
slumber party.
Yes.
We can stay up late watching movies, and then I'll make some waffles.
Fuck yeah. Waffles.
If you get that reference, make sure you're commenting below.
All I heard was waffles.
Shrek.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it.
Yeah. Donkey.
Yeah.
We can stay up late, swap manly stores. In the morning, I'm making waffles.
Fuck yeah. But seriously, you're gonna make waffles, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then I'm good with that.
Feed me and tell me I'm pretty.
Exactly. I'm like, don't tease me with food.
Speaking of.
Yes. So in where am I at? 1965 on March 18th,
Okay.
um, cosmonaut Alexei Leonov, uh, left his spacecraft for 12 minutes and became the first person to walk in space.
Was he Soviet?
Yes.
Cheater. No, seriously. Good for you, dude. That must have been like the most like exhilarating feeling. Like as a scuba diver going into like the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people know where we're diving, but you don't really know what's around that corner, what's around that reef, around the kelp. But to be that first person to go into a new uncharted territory, that must have been awesome.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
100% congratulations, dude. Don't let my biasness, destroy anything, but that's awesome.
Yeah. Plus, and I think, I don't keep up super well on this, but I think Russia is one of the countries that is still actually funding their space
Hmm.
program, along with India and China and things like that.
Yep.
So it's very nice to actually see shit still happening
Yes.
elsewhere as opposed to like first and then nothing, like we've done here in the States. And now it's like in the pocket of trillionaires who have nothing fucking better to do than launch themselves, please, into space.
Yeah, it's an arms race between millionaires now.
Yeah, trillionaires, billionaires. Yeah,
That too.
yeah,
There's a lot of illionaires.
yeah. There's vast amounts of
But
money difference
why are
between.
why aren't we studying the oceans more?
Great fucking question because
That
there's still so much that we haven't gotten into.
we've only discovered like 8% of the oceans.
Yeah,
And that's local.
yeah, it's here.
I mean, I understand you can't go beyond a certain depth, but
Yet,
I'm just
that's where science comes in. We should be expanding that
I
and
know.
trying to figure out how to do more, how
I
to go
know.
deeper.
And see, this is where I geek out at. Like the whole ocean thing, that's my scene. I mean, like my whole arm here is just covered in sharks, but as I mentioned earlier, scuba diver. So we need to explore the oceans more. I
Yes.
mean, that's here on our own planet.
Hmm.
Come on, people, get with the program.
Well, and so many like um cryptids and things like that are inspired, or at least, the ones like along ocean lines and things like that were inspired by, bodies of deep sea fish
Hmm.
who bloated when they died and came
Yeah,
up and like looked fucking alien.
yeah,
One, because they were basically, and two, because the gravity pressures made it so that they'd look entirely different.
yeah. Absolutely, 100%, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also a lot of really beautiful sea creatures out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also the unknowns, like the species we haven't seen before, so we have absolutely no idea about them.
Hmm.
But space, have we really found anything up there? Like, have we
Yes.
found any life? Whereas we have life here. Sorry, that's my 2 cents.
Both, but less people with big mouths and big pockets sending themselves into space, and more scientific exploration
Agreed.
in both places.
Agreed.
Though, to be honest, I was definitely one of the people who Schadenfreude laughed at the Titanic submarine, controlled by the Xbox controller. The only one I feel bad for is the teenager who was drug along and did
Hmm.
not want to go on that trip.
I agree.
RIPU, the rest, and the crew, if y'all were not on board with it. Everybody else,
Yeah.
just saying.
Yep.
Anyway,
That was definitely a tragic moment.
yeah.
It's,
Um,
I mean, there's, I feel worse for the engineer who's like, guys, this isn't safe.
yeah.
And then he's like, right. The whole told you so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you feel about that? Like, how would you feel?
I would feel horrible, but I would also, and this is coming from someone who's been in therapy for like 2.5 years now, so this is coming from a place of healing. But I would also try to tell myself I did everything that I could to one, make it as solid of a vehicle as possible, given the time, supplies, whatever knowledge. But also I did everything possible to communicate what I knew was going to
Hmm.
fail. So I would still be horrified and feel awful, but I did everything that I could.
Agreed.
Um, yeah, and that's just sort of shitty. Um, Going back to non-shitty things. In 2004, on March 19th, Dawn of the Dead was released.
That pleases my heart.
I thought so. Now, I don't know, was that the first one? Or was there one in like the earlier time?
Well, you have Night of the Living Dead from
That's what
from
it
from
was.
George A. Romero.
Yeah.
So that was the black and white one. That's from the 50s, 60s. I don't remember the year for the Dawn of the Dead, but that was a fantastic movie. Where, oh, here's a shock. You have to actually rely on acting, not CGI. So Dawn of the Dead is a spawn off of that one.
Hmm.
So it was George A. Romero and another author, and I'm so bad about this. I've got the book, but it's like a spin-off
Interesting.
in a sense. So, but Dawn of the Dead is not the original. The original was Return or was Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I was writing this down, and I was gonna dive into it, and
Mm,
I'm like, Donna will know, so I'll
yeah.
just ask you.
And then of course you got Return of the Living Dead, which is totally not affiliated with either or.
Right.
Still
Wasn't
zombie flicks.
wasn't Army of Darkness in that canon or no?
A little bit.
The
Just a little bit. I really wouldn't say they're
Yeah,
close,
they're
but
like a step to the side.
yeah, Army of Darkness I would say is a little bit more on the paranormal-ish side, not really so much with like the zombie trope, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, but I love that movie. That was another one that I watched
It's a good one.
a decent amount. Um, Weird, the comedy. In 1985, on March 22nd, what do you think happened?
I wasn't even one. I have no idea.
That's fair. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning was released.
Huh. I have the entire collection. It's my actual absolute favorite collection. I did not know that it was in 85.
Yeah.
Huh. I thought it was a little bit earlier. I thought it was like early 80s. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Is
Huh.
that the first
No,
one?
it's not the first one.
That's what I figured since it had
No.
a subtitle.
Yeah. No, the very first one is just Friday the 13th, and
That's what I thought.
Mrs. Voorhees was the killer. So in the very first one.
Oh,
Yeah.
can you tell that I haven't seen that series?
Shame.
I know that Johnny Depp got his acting start in one of the Friday the 13th movies.
Yep. Yep. Facts.
Yeah, that's funny. Let's see. In 1903, on March 23rd, the Wright brothers applied for a patent on their invention, one of the first successful airplanes. I also like that the source that I got this from specified one of the first successful airplanes because before we were all connected by shit like this, you really couldn't tell who was first.
Yeah.
It was just who was loudest.
Mm-hmm.
And we be America, we be loud. So I think
Yeah.
it was actually in France that beat us. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on shit. I pulled that out of my ass. Possibly.
Well, I mean, there was definitely a lot of attempts before the Wright brothers, but I mean,
Yeah.
they literally, truly crashed and burned.
Well, yeah. So,
Ups and downs.
yeah. But there were also some that happened basically at the same time that all had
Yeah.
success too. So, one that I forgot because I put a line over that I completely ignored, a little arrow to another side. But on the 13th, back in 2003, we found, or I should say, the journal Nature, a weekly scientific journal founded and based in London, England, reported that a 350,000-year-old footprint of an upright walking human was found in Italy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
that is so fucking cool.
Huh.
Totally worth adding to our little list here. On March 24th in 1999, The Matrix was released. March,
I feel like it's so much more recent than that. That's crazy.
right?
I love Keanu.
Yeah. True facts. It's one of her like actor collections.
Mm-hmm.
That and Tom Cruise.
Oh, I absolutely love Keanu Reeves. I've loved Keanu Reeves back when he was Bill and Ted. Well, back when he was Ted in Bill and Ted. I am the biggest geek in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. You can ask me anything about that movie, and I can tell you everything you need to know. Vast majority of the filming locations right here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Really?
Really, really.
Interesting.
You want to know why?
Why?
Location scout Connie Hoy. Yeah, I told you, nerd. She was from Phoenix, so she knew a lot of the good spots that were very resembling to California, SoCal area. Because, I mean, Phoenix is kind of like SoCal, but on the cheaper.
Yeah.
So
Especially back then. Now,
the vast majority of the local shots are here in Phoenix.
nice.
For example, everybody knows this one. At least I think everybody knows this one. Waterloo, the water park. That's Sunspot shot in Mesa.
Nice.
Yeah. The mall, that was Metro Center. It's now being bulldozed, become a multi-business commercial use property. The bowling alley is still there,
Nice.
so we can go bowling if you'd like. Ziggy Piggy's is Chuck E. Cheese on Northern.
Nice.
The old police department that's in Old Town Scottsdale. The school is Coronado High. A little insight. So back in grade school, I believe it was 5th through 7th grade, my school was being remodeled. So our district, we had 4 schools in our district. So 2 of the schools went to East High so they can tear down our schools and remodel them. So we were at East High for 2 years roughly. And East High on the interior in the auditorium is the interior shot for San Dimas High, where they did the final school project. So I've actually been in that auditorium. East High is no longer in existence. They tore it down after we got done using it, and now it's some sort of like weird office complex thing.
So what got you into Bill and Ted? Was it that kind of shit or
No, I had no idea that it was all Arizona based for the most part until way later. But I just liked how quirky it was. Like just 2 doofy dudes just doing things that dudes do. And
mm-hmm.
Keanu just, he nailed that character, just knocked it out of the park.
Definitely.
And he was very much my eye candy. He was truly my first celebrity crush back in the day. I was like 11 years old. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I love Ted. True story at work. Bill and Ted is my screensaver for my Zoom calls. I do have a figurine of Ted. I've got all the movies. I'm just the biggest Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure nerd.
That's awesome. Let's see. We've got back through my notes. So in 1925, on March 25th, Richard O'Brien was born. He is the writer, director, creator of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I was gonna say, I'm like, that name sounds so familiar.
Yes. So it actually started as a stage show
Hmm.
that he did, and he is a British New Zealand actor, writer. And let's see, his other credits would be Shock Treatment, the musical, which is a sort of sequel,
Huh.
not direct sequel, but a sort of sequel to Rocky Horror.
Interesting.
And apparently he was on Phineas and Ferb as the voice of Fletcher Lawrence.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it now.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Phineas and Ferb, not really, but
Oh, my daughter used to love Phineas and Ferb.
yeah. See,
Well,
I don't have a tiny human that exposes me to shit like that, but I figured you would have seen it.
I mean, it's adult friendly.
Yeah,
It's
but I
not too
don't go out of
childish.
my way to
Yeah,
watch cartoons,
it's true.
is what I'm saying. But
Tell us more. Tell us more. Tell us more.
okay, so last one that I have, on March 30th in 1988, what movie do you think came out?
March 30th, 1988. I'm gonna go on a hunch and say Nightmare on Elm Street.
Possibly, but no. Beetlejuice. You can absolutely look up Nightmare on Elm Street just to see if it was also on there, but
No, I feel like Nightmare on Elm Street came out before then. I feel like 88 would have been too late, especially if you're going toe to toe with Jason.
so one of the things with Beetlejuice, so I didn't actually see that movie, I don't think until I was like 16. I saw it for like a birthday. I don't even think I really knew that there was a movie, even though I was like three, two and a half, three when it came out. But what I did know was a thing. So the thing that I did know that was Beetlejuice related, and this is not my copy, I actually have a digital copy, and I'm showing this because she'll already have it at this point when this comes out. But the cartoon series is what I grew up with. And I got this for Donna's tiny human, but I have to wrap it and give it to her later this weekend.
Shh.
Um, but
Such a great show, by the
it's
way.
so good. So ridiculous.
Hmm.
So like I made my husband watch the first episode or two with me after I bought it digitally, and I just kept turning to him and was like, this explains so much of my personality, and he's like, uh-huh.
You know, if you think about it, we're kind of like Lydia and Beetlejuice together. Like, you're more reserved. You're like way more into the spooky. I'm just spooky and
Yeah. I remember so in the Wednesday Netflix show, which you've seen that,
oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah. When that first came out and I was watching it, there's this moment in like, what is it, the pilot episode where Wednesday gets to see her room and she meets Enid, her roommate.
I can't remember if that's the pilot or the second.
Yeah, one of the first couple episodes. But you get this shot of Wednesday with her half of the room being all dark and black and this big like spider web circular window, and then you get Enid on the other side with her like blonde hair and her streaks, which normally I have bright colored hair. I've had pink, purple, green, blue, a lot of blue in the last several years. Right now it's closer to my natural color. But
I
so
believe
you
I met you with blue hair actually.
yeah,
And when you pulled out pink, I was like, what the hell?
yeah, I like to do that. Usually it's like right after a bunch of people have like spontaneously complimented me on whatever hair color, like strangers or something like that. They're like, "Oh man, I really like your hair." I'm like, "Thanks." And then like a few days later, I would get the itch to change it just to be a contrary asshole.
Yep.
But anyway, there's this moment where Enid's whole side of her room, like her half of the window is all like brightly colored stained glass, and she's just got all these like bright things and stuffed animals and stuff. And I remember pausing it and turning to my husband and I'm like, it's both sides of my brain. And he was like, yep.
Yep. It's also like our dynamic too.
Oh,
So,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's a very fascinating month. A lot of that I truly didn't even know.
I didn't either. That's why it was so much fun because I just kind of was one in a panic because I spent most of the last month like putting together the back end stuff and kind of didn't do my research. Um,
Which we gratefully appreciate you doing the tech stuff because I'm definitely not IT.
yeah, and I was always the kind of person who would write an essay the morning of, so I knew that I could pull something out of my ass.
Once again, color me shocked.
Much to the chagrin of my teachers. I remember I was taking honors English. No, I was taking a creative writing English class like my senior year, eh, junior year. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. We've recorded like 3 or 4 episodes at this point today, so
Yeah.
our brains and tongues are not cooperating. Um, anyway, we were supposed to have this like 6 month long project that we were all working on where the whole point of it was that you were supposed to do bits of it over time over the 6 months and have this just like big like case study of you pick a subject and a skill to learn and you write about the process and all of that shit. um Whatever the fuck subject I had on that, I did the work and then I definitely wrote the paper about it, making up all of my like journal entries, um, like a couple days, maybe a day before, 2 days before.
I'm sure a lot of the class did.
Yeah, it was great though because my teacher, she pulled my paper up and held it up and was like, "See, Jamie's is a great example of what it looks like when you
Oh,
actually do the work of going through and writing it as you go along." And I raised my hand and I was like, "I actually wrote that last night." And she goes, "Jamie, why do you crush my dreams?" It was like, I don't know. Now I know it's ADHD. But I didn't know that until I was like 35. And then it was like, oh, that explains so much.
that's great.
But yeah. So when I was doing little bits of research, I was like, I need fucking something to help me kill time. And I found like all these random things, and I'm like, I'm so doing that. So it's something that I want to do like every month because
Love it.
there's so much out there.
And if you guys have any other dates to add to the list, please pop them on in. Especially if you have upcoming dates that you'd really like to bring to our attention, put them in the
Yes.
comments.
Definitely. And anything that could lead to a deeper dive. Like I said, I still want to cover that Disneyland murder and I
Yeah,
still want to deal with Thomas Edison's possibly thieving ass and all that.
love
So
it.
definitely.
Love it.
Anything else?
Can't think of anything. So, once again, thank you for tuning in to Did You Fear About This One? Make sure you're subscribing so you're up to date with all the new announcements, special podcast announcements, just random BS, because you know that's how we operate around here. So, once again, thank you so much for listening, and you guys have a wonderful week.
Bye.